Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 30 Days of JavaScript. So we're up to day 4 or 5, I lost track, but we're going to solve all 30 of these this month. And today we're looking at Leetcode 2634, filter elements from array. It's going to be fun. All right guys, so 2634, filter elements from array. All right, it's labeled as an easy problem, but if it's your first time doing something like this, it's actually really hard. It's actually really hard. If you already know the basics of JavaScript, then it could potentially be a medium or easy problem. But if you're brand new to JavaScript and you're doing the 30 Days of JavaScript challenge, it's actually not that straightforward. But I'm gonna try my best to explain it best as I can, so you guys sort of understand how to filter elements from an array. Let's get started. So given an array, an integer array R, and a filtering function fn, return a filtered array, right? And we're going to call the return array filtered R. Okay, so that's the prompt. And it says please solve it without the built-in array.filter method. Darn. So we got to write a filter function from scratch, pretty much. And I know this is the 30 Days of JavaScript challenge, guys, but I want to kind of push you guys to start learning TypeScript, right? TypeScript is a typed superset of JavaScript. It's like an enhancement onto JavaScript. So we're actually going to solve this in TypeScript, which is just pretty much JavaScript with some type checking built in. So even though this is 30 Days of JavaScript, the solution I'm going to show you is going to be in TypeScript. If you're brand new to TypeScript and you need a quick refresher course, check out the separate video I did on Tech Guides TV called the TypeScript tutorial, and that'll get you caught up with TypeScript syntax. And we're going to use TypeScript primarily for the remainder of this 30 Days of JavaScript series, as well as the 5 bonus problems that we're going to solve at the end of the month. All right, guys, so with that intro out of the way, let's get to writing this filter function. So the fn function, by the way, the filtering function, takes 1 or 2 arguments, all right? R index I is the number from the array, and I is the index of R at index I. Okay, so the filter function is going to tell us sort of how to filter the array. Okay, we're going to get a numbers array, and we're only going to deal with numbers array. It's not like we're going to get a string array or a mixed array. All right, we're going to be given a numbers array. You have to write a filter function that takes the number array, as well as the filter function filters the numbers array based on the criteria in the filter function and returns a new number array. So an example filter function could be, return everything that's not a 0, return every number that's odd, return every number for me that's, I don't know, a prime number, right? So we're given an array of numbers, we return a subset of that array based on fn, the filtering function. All right, guys, the filtered R should only contain the elements from the array for which the expression fn at array index I, I evaluates to a truthy value. All right, guys, so truthy and falsy. These are kind of like Boolean logic values. So anything that's like a positive integer or negative integer, true, string, these are all truthy values, whereas falsy values include things like undefined, not a number, empty string, 0, or false. Those are the truthy values. So we're going to filter based on truthy or falsy. So keep that in mind. A truthy value is a value where Boolean with input value returns true, right? So that's sort of a JavaScript thing. We have truthy and falsy, right? There's true and false, which is sort of like binary 0, 1. In JavaScript, we also have this concept of truthy and falsy, which is sort of another JavaScript concept that 2634 is testing you on. But I'll try my best to, actually I'll do a separate video on that, because that's sort of a whole other lecture. But with that introduction, hopefully you guys sort of understand what the task is at hand. So let's move on to reading through the 3 examples because that'll clarify a bit more sort of how to write this filter function. So if the input array includes values 0, 10, 20, and 30, for example, and fn is a greater than 10 function, if that's the filtering function, fn, so return n greater than 10, what's the output going to be? Yeah, it's going to filter out 0 and 10 because they're not greater than 10. Right? It doesn't say greater than or equal to. That would include 10. So 10 is not technically not greater than 10. Right? 11 is, but 10 isn't. So the output's going to be just a subset of the input array. It's going to return 20 and 30. So we have to write a filter function that takes this input, gives this output with this fn, as well as the number array and fn as parameters. Okay, guys. The explanation is right here. Const new array equals filter r comma fn 20 30. The function filters out values that are not greater than 10. Pretty straightforward. Example 2 is a bit more. No, it's not a bit more tricky. It's just okay. The example 2 filters for based on index, right? So return the values where I equals triple equals 0. So here we're not really filtering based on value. We're filtering based on index. So we're only going to return index 0, the value at index 0, which is 1. And so therefore the output is 1. fn can also accept the index of each element. In this case, the function removes elements not at index 0. Okay, so our filter function has to be able to handle this sort of input in example 1 as well as this sort of input in example 2. It has to be able to handle different fn functions. And example 3 is probably the trickiest. If input array is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, and the filter, fn, the input into the filter function, right? The filtering criteria, sort of. In this case, it's +1 function +1, right? That's fn, and it returns n + 1, and the output includes everything in the original array except -1. And this was a bit tricky when I first took a look at this. I'm like, wait, what? Why does it filter out the -1 and nothing else? And it's because negative integers, guys, in JavaScript are not falsy, they're truthy. So -2, if we take -2 to be n and we add 1 to it, it's -1. That's truthy, so we return -2. However, -1 + 1 is 0. That's falsy, right? 0 is falsy, so we filter that out. Our filter function filters out the -1. The 0, well, 0 is a falsy value. 0 + 1. Remember, we're returning n + 1. 0 + 1 is 1, which is truthy, so we include 0, and we include 1 and 2. So that one was a bit tricky. Example 3 is kind of a tricky one. But if you sort of think of f of n as being this sort of how the filter function knows what to filter for, then this will make perfect sense. Falsy values such as 0 should be filtered out. Alright, guys. So Leetcode also provides a few hints that are going to be helpful in getting started with this function. Hint 1 says that we should start by declaring a new array which will eventually be returned. Okay, guys, so that's key, right? We're going to create an empty numbers array and then return that numbers array based on what we filter out from the original array. So that's hint 1, keep that in mind. Hint 2 is that in JavaScript there is the concept of truthiness and falsiness. Values such as 0, undefined, null are false, and false are falsy, right? So false is a falsy value. I know that's kind of redundant, but if you've never encountered truthy or falsy in other programming languages, that's kind of, I'd say, unique to JavaScript. Not all programming languages have that that construct of truthy and falsy. Most values are truthy, whereas values like null, undefined, 0, empty string, these are falsy. And hint 3 is to loop over each element in the array of f of n at array index I is truthy, push it to the array. All right, guys, so with those hints, you should be kind of feeling more comfortable about writing this filter function in TypeScript. And remember, we can't use array.filter because that would be too easy. So I'll let you guys pause the video and attempt this, and then I'll walk you through the solution. Hey guys, welcome back to Tech Guys TV, and here is the solution to Leetcode 2634 in TypeScript. So that first line, type fn, declares sort of the type of the filtering function. It's going to need two parameters, n, which is a number, I, which is a number, the return type any. So I know this is 30 Days of JavaScript, but I highly recommend learning TypeScript. All right, guys, it's going to save you a bunch of headache in the future. So that's sort of all that line one is accomplishing there with the type keyword. And remember, I have a separate video on called the TypeScript tutorial that you can watch if any of that's confusing for you guys. And then on lines 3 through 11, and just these simple 9 elegant lines of JavaScript with a bit of TypeScript in there, thrown in there as well, we're able to filter any filtering function and any kind of numbers array based on that filtering function. So this is really cool. So function filter takes in an array of type numbers array and a function of type fn, which we defined in line 1. And the return type of the filter function is a numbers array. And remember, hint 1 tells us to start with an empty numbers array, so that's what line 4 is doing. All right, the const ans, that's the answers array that we returned in line 10. And then it's simply a matter of looping through. Remember, hint 3 tells us to loop over each element and push it to the array if it's truthy. So that's lines 5 through 9, right? Or r.for each. We do a for each loop. Line 6 is where we filter, right? If f of n with values a comma index is truthy, then we push a onto the answers array, right? A is going to be the value from the input array, and we only push it into the answers array if it satisfies the filtering requirement. All right, guys, and this filter function should be able to handle all 3 of the test cases. All right, so let's actually test this function. Let's see if our 3 test cases pass using this function. So in test case 1, our filtering function is greater than 10. We have to return n greater than 10. So the input array includes values 0, 10, 20, and 30, and the output is in fact just 20 and 30 as expected. Okay, so it filters out 0 and 10. In case 2, we're filtering for only the value at index I triple equals 0, so we expect the output to be just array with value 1, and it evaluates true, so case 2 works. And case 3 is a tricky one, where the filtering function is +1, it takes n, return n plus 1, where that's truthy. So input array includes -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, and as expected, the output array is -2, 0, 1, and 2. That -1 is filtered out. So hopefully this was helpful, guys. I know this one's a bit tricky. We could have just used, array.filter, but we wrote the filtering method the old-fashioned way. So hopefully this was a good exercise for you guys in how to filter arrays in JavaScript and how to check types using TypeScript. If any of this was confusing, just you can drop a comment and I'll try to answer all your questions. All right, guys, tune in again tomorrow for another one.